I told you about the project that I'm developing since 2 years. It's called No Fox. It's I know that you, like me, we have been searching for new paths to extend Foxpro to the new environments, and you know these environments mostly HTML platforms like cellular phones, tablets, and mostly today communication is made by HTTP. So desktop applications like the ones we do on VFP are slowly being deprecated. Uh, there's any sound? Can you hear? Hello.
No, you're good, Marco. I think we were getting some noise from Frank.
Okay. So uh,
Yep, that's better. Thanks, Frank.
I wanted to explore different platforms like ASP.NET, ASP.NET, MVC, but like Switch, CoachDB, MongoDB, NoSQL, and there was always something that I liked, something that I didn't, and and across these years, I saw many efforts on the BFP community to bring the HTML to BFP with no success, or being too hard for everybody or anyone to enter in this world. So the best approach I have seen is ASP.NET MVC, and I like it. But I'm not a major fan of C Sharp or C language. But I do have some experience with JavaScript. So the tools were there. Now we have multi-threading on BFP via many libraries we can find in BFP to C32 DLL project and some others. But this one is the one I use to create an HTTP web server programmed entirely on BFP. But this is not just an HTTP web server. I'm creating a complete framework that will allow you to have security integrated, like the one you have on any ASP MVC application, scaffolding, that it means you can create HTML forms based on view models that you define. But let's explore this step by step. First, the case for NosFox. I wanted to first deprecate client ODBC access to data. Let's do some server that serves the data via HTTP. So we need to expose a REST API for data access and do the manipulation. Provide MVC architecture application development, like I said, having integrated security management. There's no point in anytime you make a new application, you have to define every single part of the application. So a framework provides all of this. There was some need to improve a rendering engine to generate HTML using BFP code. So you will see some improvements on this rendering engine that I have developed. Another point that I wanted to cover was to use SQL Server Compact Edition for multi-user installations. You know, SQL Compact, SQL Server Compact allows you to, it's a file-based database. So you can't access SQL Server file from the network, okay? But you can have up to 256 connections to the same file if these connections are made on the same machine by different process. So SQL Server Compact is intended to use by IIS 4 because it's thread safe, something that wasn't possible with the 3.5 version. And now SQL Server Compact can serve as a strong database backend and provides this functionality with a very low footprint. You know, you have only 4 megs to copy and install into your clients, and you have a SQL Server functionality. Another point I wanted to provide is to have access or provide access to VFP tables over the network with security and in a reliable way. You know, VFP is prone to corruption. It uses too much network bandwidth, and it's unsafe by nature. If you put those VFP tables behind an HTTP web server, those limitations are gone, and there's no reason why you couldn't use VFP tables to make a robust system. Another thing that you might encounter or limitation in VFP to develop web applications is the fact that mostly we need to deal with objects. We, and as VFP developers, are accustomed to manipulate two-dimensional data, mostly tables related with each other, like any RDBMS system. And it's rare to find complex object modeling using pure VFP, because VFP has no easy way to create this kind of structures. So I created some scripting that will make easier for us to create complex objects and, as you will see, validate them. That is a necessity when you are working in in HTTP platform. Let me start by showing you some simple graph that illustrates the architecture of the server. Here we have the HTTP server that is able to deliver data in XML form, JSON, text, HTML, and can receive from the clients, in this case VFP, changed XML cursors or SQL pass-through instructions. This is for basically the VFP library access. In top of this, we have a no-fox DAC. This is the data access component that uses ADO or ODBC to connect to the RDBMS backend, in this case SQLC 4.0, DBS free tables, be it SQL Server, Firebase, MySQL, or any other RDBMS you like. For now, I'm working on these two first implementations of SQLC and DBF, primarily because we as VFP developers, we, I don't know your case, but mine is working with in small size enterprises with no more to up to 50, 100 users. And in many cases, we can provide solutions using less than 4 gigabytes of data. I don't know if that is your case, but 90% of my working has never been larger than that. The NoFox implements the MVC pattern. Don't know if you want to start by taking a view of the MVC pattern, or if you want to pass to the hands-on modeling. Talk.
Whichever route you want to go. I'm always anxious to see it actually working.
Okay. Let's start with HTTP. You know, HTTP communication is made with text messaging, VFP objects, JavaScript objects, be it tables. They need some serialization via JSON or XML to be transported as text strings over the wire. So the problem is when you transport the data via serialized objects, you lost some information. For example, this JSON string has three properties. For example, a logical value. It has a true value, a date, between a string value, and a number. But you can, depending of the backend, interpret this on different ways. For example, true can be for VFP a true between dots, or one if you are working with bitwise database that has no logical fields, and dates depending on the format you have on your backend. This can be 1A 2010 or 81 2010. So we need to save somewhere or somehow the casting information for these properties. In this case, for example, number, you don't know if you want to convert it to an integer, or you need a number field with maybe two decimal places. So this has been solved in the past, of course, using, in the case of XML schemas, or JSON has JSON schemas. In BFP, or we have no way to define schemas, and certainly we can using the XML adapter or the XML HTTP object via create object, but it's too complex to write by hand these schemas, the XML and JSON, are too verbose, and C# implements something they call the POCO classes. The POCO classes allows the C# developer to describe objects, as its properties, make annotations in a very easy way. So I wanted to provide VFP some kind of functionality similar to that we found in C#. So I created two excuse me, two components, the two specifications, Enson and Enson schema. Okay, an Enson schema holds the original object structure. When you serialize an object to pass it over HTTP, you lost the information, the original information, as we saw. So we needed to save this information. What it is, the original variable type and length, the var types, the default value. This one is the first one is the one we need to revive the object. And these ones, the var types, default value, minimum and maximum values, minimum and maximum lengths for string types, for arrays, it's information we need to use to validate that the object we are receiving is valid. When we work with MVC, like we will see, you just receive the object and ask the framework if the object is valid, because you tell the framework before receiving the object the schema that is associated with that object, and you just need to ask if the object is valid or not, and if it's valid, you go ahead and continue with the program flow, and if not, you act accordingly. Okay, so the schema, as you can see, hosts this information. You might see that this is quite a lengthy list of properties and validation information we can set for an object. And if you have a very large one, this can be a tedious work to do. So I created Enson. Let me show you an example of an Enson file. Okay. For example, we're going to see this Enson file that represents a PC. Can you see, or is too short the font?
It's okay. A little bigger would be nice.
Okay, that's good.
Much better.
Okay, for example, if I wanted to represent this object, my PC, it has a CPU which has a CPU speed of 3.2, a model AMD FX A120. It's not overclocked. I made a garbage field here, a property. I create an array of HDDs with 3 items. As you can see, this is a simple and clean way to create complex objects, to model and create view models, as we're going to see. For example, I can have, let's say, 2 monitors, one Acer or 24 inches, and AUC printers that has for example, manufacturer, ink replacement, the cartridge, support info for this printer, the phones, the items. I can have, for example, other phone, okay? And I just created a new phone. With this program here, I will, with this simple instruction, I can read this file and convert it to a VFP object. For example, you can see that this is my PC. I have CPU, HDDs, monitors, and printers. If I click on CPU, this is garbage model. And of course, I can explore it on the debugger. Let's see. As you can see, I created this object with no effort and made a very complex structure here. But this is just half the story. You can receive this as a JSON file or an XML file, and you need a way to validate this information when you receive it by internet and to revive it somehow. Okay, so we need the JSON schema that is in this case this file. So this file describes the properties and the object, the object properties. For example, my PC CPU model, it must be casted to a C type bar of 20 characters long. I can have a title between I don't know how you call this symbol. The model, between brackets, I can have the default value. For example, the manufacturer, this cast to a C and 10 characters length. I can specify if this field is required when I use this schema, as you will see, to create an HTML form. So this is the default value, and these are the accepted or possible values that the manufacturer can have. In this case, Intel, AMD, or ARM. The speed is an integer that whose value must be between 800 and 5,000. The title is speed in megahertz, and so on. I can even specify regular expressions that this property must match to be valid. And I can validate my object against this schema. So this schema, as you can see, is very compact and very easy to write. Okay, so how do we validate an object? We just write a program like this. I read the JSON file, that is my PC, read the schema, and apply the schema to the object. Okay, are you following me?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so let's run this program and see the results, okay? Here, this is the validation result. For example, this is an unknown property. My PC CPU garbage, my CPU speed is below minimum value of 800. I specify here 3.2. It must have been in thousands. My PC HDDS item number one capacity is 60. It's below minimum value, that is 100. Okay. The manufacturer SanDisk Chinese is not found in allowed values list, that is Seagate, Western Digital, or SanDisk. My PC HDDS manufacturer SanDisk Chinese is no match for regular expression. It must have been a single word. Okay. The type I specified PATA is not found in allowed values list. That is SATA 2, SATA 3, SSD is SATA USB 2, USB 3. So, as you can see, this function validates, and not only validates but tells you if there is missing properties on the source object that they are specified on the schema. In this case, I specify by date in the schema, and the object doesn't have it. Okay, we can simply add it. No, this is the schema. For example, okay, and let's just remove the garbage. Let's fix this capacity, and let's take this to 100. You will see that these messages will no longer be displayed. Okay, let's save. So I just need to fix the CPU speed, and of course there is more validation messages being displayed. But the thing is, you can taking this schema, validate objects, very complex objects, and using this information, you can hook these validation messages to the client. In this case, jQuery, UI, or any other framework we use for that purpose. In this example, or you can see that Enson XS provides the information needed for scaffolding, so we can create HTML forms or VFP forms just writing the schema. We can provide VFP object validation, and we can provide the information that jQuery or Angular needs to perform the validation on the client side when we deal with HTML forms. All this process will be made automatically by NoFox, as you will see. Another thing that allows you allows the Enson XS is to implement code first. Code first, for those who not know the term, means that you can start developing the application by defining the model. In this case, the model of the data is made using an end-zone schema. In C# you use POCO classes. Um, so the POCO classes allows the code first engine to make the scaffolding of the forms. In this case, I will show you. Let me see if the server is running. Okay. Uh, this object that is created from, you can type this on your screen, on your web browser, and you will see that this form has been created automatically um, from the end-zone schema. In this case, my PC is the object, the CPU, the byte date, this is the default value, and and you can see I have implemented the Twitter Bootstrap. Um, it's integrated on the form generation, so the form can adapt to the viewport, no matter if it is a cellular, tablet, or desktop application. So if I change my model, I can create the forms easily. Let's change this model. This scaffolding engine, this will have of course, a user interface. Now this is just loose PRGs and functions, but this function will take this ensom x file and will create this demo view PRG. So if I change my schema, okay, let's just change it, and let's include, don't know, the camera and the mouse information on this schema. And if I add the mouse, and this is the default value. For example, the resolution must be a character expression. One second. Let's see. So I will save the schema, and now I will render again the form. So when I refresh, I can see the mouse, resolution DPI, brand unknown, type optical, and laser. You know that I just changed my model and run the scaffolding again for that model, and the form has been created automatically. In this case, the system NoFox detected that this was an option and made the radio button accordingly. In this case, this is SATA, SATA 3 is SATA, USB, USB 3, brand. So when this form is submitted to the server, this same model will validate this information. So you have a centralized point that gathers all the information you need to generate the HTML forms, validate them when you receive the information, and revive the object when you receive the object on VFP. Not only the validator can validate the object, it can enforce that the object has the default values. It can add missing properties and delete spare properties from the source object. Okay. I don't know if you want to make some question or have some question about this so far. Are you there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're here.
We're
Looks like
here.
Brandon maybe has a question. Anybody else, if you don't, just open your mic and ask away, that's fine.
Okay. Well, let's see some MVC pattern or what is behind this architecture. We explained it that we gravitate around this Enson schema. Here, you model or you create your model, your tables. So, for example, let me show you one more complex model. Let me see. Well, it's not on hand, and we have so many things yet to do. So we just saw the scaffolding. It generates HTML form from a view model. In this case, view models will allow you to create forms based on smaller or partial pieces of your tables. In this case, maybe you have a table. In this case, we refer to it as the model with 100 properties, and you want to make a view model with just a bunch of it, let's just say 10 or 20 of those properties. You create a view model and relate it to that table. in this case, that model. No Fox integrates in this version the Twitter Bootstrap, so you just need to create the when you create your HTML, you don't need to include the headers or links to Bootstrap, because the system automatically does it for you. It generates jQuery validation scripts based on the model. This is under development. Remember that I'm just giving you a preview, but uh, this form that you are seeing here will have not only client server validation enabled, but we have a client validation enabled based on your model rules. Okay, it will use jQuery just like ASP.NET MVC does. It uses jQuery validation plugin to do the client validation. I'm evaluating using jQuery or Angular, but Angular seems to be overkill, and they are changing. They are doing a major version change, so seems that I will stick with jQuery validation plugin from now. Okay, so okay, uh, once you define your model, you will be able to have the basic crude HTML forms for create, read, update your data made for you. You just create the model like I did, and you will have executing the scaffolding options and checking the appropriate functionality you want, whether we update, delete, and query, and the HTML forms will be generated for you, just like this one you see here. Okay. Okay. Let's enter on the MVC pattern. As I said before, the NoFox project relies on an MVC architecture. MVC means that your application is divided on three areas: the model, the view, and the controller. This seems trivial at first, but it provides a powerful separation that will allow us to create unit testing, automatic unit testing on the future, and loose component coupling. It means that when you don't mix your data access with your presentation layer and your user interface, your data access, and your business logic, you can substitute any component with ease. So the controller in this case is responsible for accepting the user input. When you type a URL, in this case, when I click and I do demo my PC on my server, I trigger one action on my server. Okay, the action is received by the controller. It communicates with the model. In this case, we refer to the model as the data access layer, and the and some schema, okay, um, to get or persist the data we receive from the internet. And in case the action you are triggering renders a view to see on the browser, it prepares the data and put it on a dynamic object that you will see. Okay, so the view just receives the data that the controller prepares. Okay, uses the data provided by the controller via an object called OView data. This is a convention. This object is provided for data transport between the view and the controller, and it's a dynamic object, as you will see. It, the view can shape or not and construct the final output. Mostly, or most part of the time, it will be HTML file, render the HTML, but it can generate any kind of output. For example, PDFs or can create a VFP report and and send it back to the user as HTML. Okay, so no Fox, just like ASP, MVC, and Ruby on Rails, lies on naming conventions. This is some called the drive principle. Don't repeat yourself. We start a project and we must follow these naming conventions to make easier to maintain and documentate the project. For example, in this case, the controllers are located. In this case, no. In the case of NoFox, the controllers controllers, as you remember, are the programs that receive the input from the user, are located on the root views controller folder. The controller PRGs must be named like this: the controller name dot controller dot PRG. And for every procedure inside a controller, there must be a controller name dot view dot procedure name. For example, if I have the demo controller PRG, and inside this demo controller PRG, I have the test procedure, and I just call the view with no name from the procedure test, and the framework knows that it has to look for this file that is called demo.view.testprg. It has the same name of the procedure. The view has the same name of the procedure. Test is view test. My query is view my query PRG. If I have a test controller.prg and with a query to procedure inside, the corresponding view will be test.view.query to PRG. So this makes easier for us to find the files and relate them with ease, as you will see. Convention over configuration shortens code. For example, when I have a bunch of controllers here. Okay, for example, I have this demo controller. I don't know if you can see. Demo controller has my PC upload file, and see that if my PC must return an HTML or the corresponding view, I just write return view. If upload file must return the corresponding view, I just call return view. I don't need to type return view and remember demo dot view dot upload file dot png. The convention knows that and constructs the the name of the function according to this procedure name and this convention. It accelerates development. For example, creating a new project will create all the required folders and a new security DB. As you saw, as I told you, NoFox will integrate a security database by storage in SQL Server Compact. So you create a new project, it automatically will create a users DB with an initial user admin and empty a key, just like when you install any RDBMS. Okay, it a convention over configuration facilitates documentation and can even be automated. Why? Because I know that I can inspect every controller and uh, can create a file that will list all my controller names, all my view names, will check if there is one view missing or misspelled, or if one row does not match to any controller. Okay, it facilitates collaboration even with you in the future. We most part of the time write some program, and when we see it 1 year ahead, we don't remember why we did something or how we did it. If you have created a VFP screen or report and put code inside the button click method, you have to inspect every method to locate the code and where is it and how is it related. And maybe it has some PRG or class libraries. Uh, Everybody codes differently. Okay. It can facilitate DB modeling. For example, when I create an schema, just like ASP.NET MVC code first does, I can stand that I can say that the first field will always be the table's primary key. So when NoFox generates the database from the schema, you will save this, you will be safe to write this information, which are the primary keys, just put it on the first place. Okay, so another thing that needs and differentiates an MVC web application from a traditional ASP application is the use of routing. Okay, when you do a traditional web application, you rely on active server pages or physically located pages that lives on a folder structure on your root directory. Okay, so if for example you have this URL demo my PC. If this were a traditional ASP.NET application, you can be sure that there is a demo folder with a my PC ASP, for example, a page, or a PLG page. Okay. Um, in this case, when you need to change or want to make multiple routes for the same resource, in this case, my PC form, in traditional IIS, you have to create virtual paths that points to the same physical address, and that quickly makes a mess. So the MVC approach relies on a different approach. You simply define a route. You create, for example, let's see, a URL. In this case, we define a route. Routing means taking an incoming HTTP request and calling a desired procedure inside a PRG according to a predefined rules. For example, if I want that nofox.com demo customers /5 calls my CST procedure inside my first dot controller PRG with 5 as parameter, I just define this route, okay? NoFox has a routes file that you will see, and I create this entry. Oh, I lost it. Okay, I create this entry. I give it a name, my first route. I type the URL I want to route, in this case, demo customers slash, and the parameters, very important, are, we put it between no, braces, okay? And I tell which is the default controller, in this case, my first, remember, my first controller.prg, and the default action. In this case, I want to call CST procedure inside my first controller PRG. So when the user clicks demo customers /5, in this case, NoFox routing will call my first CST procedure inside my first controller PLG. And very important, it will cast the parameter that I specify here, in this case, my first parameter, to an integer, and we'll check that my first parameter match this um, match this regular expression. This um, mm, asterisk, I don't know, I just lost the word for this, means that this parameter is required. So if you don't specify the entire URL, you won't have a match. Let's see that in action. It will be, this part is very interesting. Let's enable routing debug. I will enable route testing. Sorry. And let's see, when I type demo my PC, I just enable the route testing. NoFox shows me which routes it tested that I have defined on my routes file to find the one that matches my demo slash PC URL. In this case, it matched the default route. ASP.NET MVC and NoFox implements something called the default route. In this case, when I type demo my PC, you can see that this URL controller demo is my controller and my PC is my action inside my controller. This third parameter is optional, the ID. Okay, so it shows that it routes to my PC in demo slash demo controller PRG. Let's type another route. If I just call, and you can test it, nofox.com, let's refresh. It defaults to index in home controller. But why if I didn't put anything on my URL bar, in my address bar? Let's see the default controller and how this works. Inside NoFox, there is a default controller. Let's just see the code. It integrates this default controller. That is the default route. Whenever a user types a URL, the default controller is home index. Okay? So if I just type, if I don't type anything, but just the slash, it will default to home index. If I type home, it will fall also with home index because this is the default action and the default controller. Okay. Let's see another routing test and how they work here. For example, to download a file, the URL I need to put is nofox/download, and I have to name a file. If I type nofox.com download, but don't specify a file, okay? The route won't match. But if I complete and I say koala.jpg, let's see, let's refresh. Routing matches because get download koala ph matches download slash and has a C file that matches this regular expression that expects one word, one dot, one word, or just one word, okay? Then the routing engine, let me see how this call is made. It routes to download file in demo controller PRG. Let's see. Demo controller has these procedures inside. For example, my PC upload file and download file. Okay, download file automatically receives this parameter, okay, because it's binded. So you see now routing and auto parameter binding to function via this routing system. Are you following me, Todd?
I'm just fine.
Okay. Don't know if anybody of you have any experience with ASP.MVC.
I do not.
Okay, this is very, very similar. Okay, so routing allows you to map any URL you want to your your methods inside simple PLG. Let's just get some action here and disable the routing. Okay, routing now is disabled. So if I refresh the another thing or cool thing that routing provides is RESTful or discoverable. I don't know how is it pronounced. Discoverable routing URLs. For example, if I type orders, this is missing. Let me see. Wrote this. For example, this route lists sales by year, month, and day. Will allow me to, with just one URL, get a list of sales from a year, month, or selected day. Okay? If you can see this route here, the default controller will be called sales, and the default action is list sales in the sales controller that is here. List sales will receive three parameters: year, month, or day, or will not receive it. It may be or maybe does not receive it. So I just will evaluate the parameter and set it to 0 if I don't get it, okay? And create my SQL here. Just call the data access component and execute the query, convert it to a cursor, and return the view. Okay, let's see the sales controller and the sales view list sales just renders this file. Now, just scans the cursor and creates the table. Okay, so the route, I just forgot. Okay. The route I must type is sales. The URL is sales. If I type sales, I will get 850 records. You can type it on your browser. You just type nofox/sales. And if I add a slash and type in the year, for example, 1998, I will get only the 1998 sales. If I add the month, for example, 3, I will get only the sales for March of 1998. And I can add the day, let's say just 4. Okay? This view is rendered with just these lines of code. Okay? The sales view, list sales. This is the header. This is a Twitter Bootstrap HTML tags. I just define the table and I create an HTML row. What we have here is a helper. This I just provide the order date, ship name, ship address to the header. I create an HTML row class header, and this is data that renders order date, ship name, and ship address, and closes the table. Okay. Don't know if it is clear how this works. Did you try on your browser?
What's the address again, Marcus?
No Fox, just like this. nofox.com
Just with the slash, you mean? Yeah.
sales.
I typed it properly.
Another cool thing that you can do is return not only views, but JSON, XML, or TXT files. For example, I made this on my demo controller. I have a procedure called orders. If I type in nofox demo/orders, okay, I will get a JSON file to open on my PC, but I can change easily not to return JSON. Let's just check this to return XML, for example. I don't know if you see these 3 parameters, 3 lines here. I'm just commenting to return XML, and we'll save it. And this will have my response in XML, okay? If I wanted to return a TXT file, I just needed to do return TXT. And I can even specify the text delimiter. In this case, I will get the same result, but on TXT form. If I wanted to give the user the ability to choose which one of these 3 formats they wanted to render, to have in I could add a second parameters. For example, not only ID, but I could use a format parameter. So FMT is not received here, okay? So I will add it to my procedure, will save it, but I have to change the route and specify that orders this route will need a third parameter, but let's just controller. I can do this. Okay, I made a mistake here. Is all request. Okay, I just added the ability to select the type of output I want by URL parameters, additional URL parameters. In this case, if I wanted HTML, I have the table. If I wanted XML, I have the XML output. If I wanted JSON file, in this case, the browser tries to open because it is specified as JSON/application. If I wanted the JSON to be shown on the browser, the content type must be set to JSON text plain file. So we have explored the basic concept behind this project, and one last thing that NoFox implements is REST API endpoints. This is in the MVC ASP.NET MVC is called the Web API. I call it REST API endpoints. REST API generally returns raw serialized data. JSON, XML, TXT files that you request via AJAX call. Okay. So API calls does not have a default action. You don't call the action by means of a default action. The default action is set by the HTTP method call. When you do REST over HTTP, you say to save a document, you make a put call and send the document in JSON or XML or whatever format you like, but generally it's JSON or XML files. And you put the document on a URL. For example, if I wanted to include a new order, I put a document on this URL, CRUD orders, and supply the ID. This will instruct the NoFox to create and insert that document, previous validation, okay? Because this endpoint will be tied to an endpoint schema, okay? So you just define the endpoint schema that is tied to the table, and the form just put the file, delete a selected ID, and the NoFox will do the CRUD operations for you. You don't need to do delete from orders where ID equals 5. No, you just say delete CRUD orders dot slash let's say 12, and this will delete the order ID 12 on the orders table. Okay, so if you have an HTML form that gathers information to receive a form, you just post the form with the ID, and the backend will save it automatically on the database and will validate it automatically, because this endpoint is tied to a predefined model. Okay, in this case, I wrote table ID, but this must say, for example, CRUD orders ID, and this there is one missing parameter here, that is model. And NoFox will know that this information that this endpoint will receive must validate against the models.orders schema, and just will proceed with the operation or will reject it in case the model doesn't validate properly. Okay, I don't know if you have any question, or you like to ask something about what you have just seen.
So, what are your plans for NoFox, Marco?
Well, NoFox is going to be a commercial product. This is a huge amount of work. I've been working with this for over 2 years. I developed the multi-threaded HTTP server, but take in consideration that you will be able to deploy an HTML-based application with no effort, a secure application. Let's say you want to build a restaurant application to take orders with a tablet PC on the tables. Okay, you just create the model, validate, specify the schema. No Fox will create automatically the database and will create the forms for you. Okay, so the application will be HTML enabled with no effort. It will allow you to take your existing VFP, DBF based application to a higher level, putting the tables behind it and secure HTTP server. Okay, so you will forget about data table corruption, unauthorized access to the DBF. Okay, as long as your server is in a secure place, the complete installation of a solution will take no more than 10 megs. Okay, so if you want to distribute, for example, a demo, you just have or a complete application. You just have to download the SQL Server Compact, that is 4 megs, the Foxpro support libraries, and of course the no Fox source files that we're talking about 10 megs maximum. Okay, I hope this product will be able to ship in about 3 months, 3 or 4 months. I have to test it on my own development, okay, to make sure that it's stable, that it has an entry level point, but this for sure will bring a high level development application to BFP. You will be able to manage complex objects, to know and manage the new modeling techniques like MVC, modeling, validation, things that we in BFP just don't deal with. Okay.
Questions from anybody else?
I suppose just one question: is that going to be on a subscription basis or a one-off purchase as such? Marco?
I don't have that clear. It's still clear, but I know that this has a much improvement over the time. For example, now I implemented Twitter Bootstrap, but maybe in the future you will have a package to add support for Windows 8 like themes or frameworks. Okay, rendering automatically forms with this kind of frameworks you find on the internet. Okay, maybe if you want Angular support or jQuery UI, different frameworks maybe will be sold in a separate way, or maybe will be just posted by the community. I don't know yet, but something is clear, and this is going to be a new product for BFP, okay, that will move forward and take to 2014 the BFP development with as I say, the new techniques, MVC, routing, model validation, schema validation, things that you will find, and if you like to go forward and move to ASP.NET MVC in the future, it will be easier to understand these concepts, because it's basically the same. Okay, routing is the same, naming convention, and of course I will integrate unit testing. It means that since this is a BFP basic product, you will be able to use the HTTP server as a desktop applications backend with extremely ease. You just will download or make the query. For example, you will get the XML, you will do an XML to cursor, you will change your data on BFP, and then you just post back to the server the changed cursor. Okay, the operation will be made as a transaction. Even you will be able to pack multiple multiple cursors on the same operation. Okay, if you want to post, for example, an order that has three products, a payment information, and create a customer, all as one transaction, you just post three changed cursors, and the data access component will wrap the information and will treat it as a single transaction. Okay, you have full control over this transaction. You will be able to say if you want to stop on errors, process all the file, or simply roll back the transaction if just one is failing the operation.
How do we follow your progress in terms of the project as it moves on?
I want to distribute evaluation copies of this version. Okay, a first version, just like Microsoft does with their products. But I need to finish the model validation. Okay, and the HTML client validation module. Once this is finished, maybe I will release a free versions. I like to the idea of free versions that maybe will not support many threads. You know that when you connect to the server, your browser might open 8, 5, 4 connections, one single client. Okay.
Yeah.
I might limit that to, let's say, 30 connections, and so 4 or 3 users can use the application. You can test it, you can use it, and if you like it, then well, you can buy it.
Yeah. So
Well,
do you have a blog or anything? I mean, are you?
I have a Twitter account open that is called
Okay.
No Fox 2 BFP. No Fox 2 BFP.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep. I'll follow you there.
Okay, thanks, Marco.
Okay. Well, thanks for coming. Hope you have enjoyed it.